poems in this first section where it says you or your. They refer to my wife Bajana, who some of you knew and some of you may know of. So that's going to be the first section. This is why I say it's a different section. So the first one is called Un Poema para Ti. So this is when I had my Spanish period years ago in the 70s, and they actually read this out on Radio Wales, somebody called Adam something, but I can't remember his second name. Anyway, Un Poema para Ti. This is a poem for you and no one else. Keep it near and read it often. Take it with you should you go shopping or step outside for just a moment. Eso es un poema para ti. This is a poem about you, for your eyes to look at and retain. Written in this poem, your face shines like a verse. This is a South American poem, waiting for you alone. A Castilian wall poem with your name on it, your features and your face form the lines. Hold it in your hand. That's on the pages now. Hold it in your hand and listen to the sounds and shapes. This is a Madrid poem, singing and serenading just you only. Watching your every move, it speaks gently of you. Hold it fast. Thank you, so that was that. And now, I got all these bits of paper, I still can't work out what is what. Number 2. Well, I'll read number 3 instead then, in case I find number 2 in a minute. I'll read number 3. My wife Bajana was a Slovene, and when I first met her, she was still part of Yugoslavia. So officially she was a Yugoslav, that was her passport. But she was a Slovene, and on this one occasion she went to on holiday to visit her relatives in Slovenia, and this is a poem that I wrote at the time when I was feeling sorry for myself, and it's called Without You. Without you I am lost as a dog in the fog, not knowing what to do or where to go. Without you I cannot play like a child. Without you cats fly from me and will not stay. Without you, there is no joy in preparing food. Without you, my house has become strange to me. Without you, I have money, but it means nothing. Without you, I sit in my bath and make no plans. Without you, my centre falls apart, I cannot hold. Without you, I march alone more than ever. Without you, I wade knee-deep in a wallow of my own self-made pity. Without you, the moon also rises and the sun still shines, but I am utterly bereft. Hello, Francis. You're just in time for you. Yeah. Without you I smile and joke with people, but I want them to go. Doesn't mean you, of course, so you stay till the end and then you're quite happy you can go. Without you there's no lighthouse on the rocks. Without you I wake early and do not know why. Without you my bed is a desert and I want to weep. Going to Velindre. When you go to Velindre, you are like a joyous firework that lights up all the room and sends the doctors and the nurses rocketing into the Cardiff sky. A Roman candle charming the ambulance men and women out of their vehicles and showering them with heat and energy, a zestful Catherine wheel, firing up the patients and the ladies from the Women's Royal Voluntary Service in their shops selling cakes and sweets, and the whole place comes alive with brightness and colour and vivacity when you go to Velindre. When you go to Velindre, you are a sparkle of delight, fizzing up the room, a Chinese firecracker bursting with emotion, giving new blood to the phlebotomists, a jumping jack spraying joie de vivre, and dazzling the support staff as you put on a show of pyrotechnics to captivate and endear the volunteer drivers, outpatients, cleaners and catering staff when you go to Velindre. When you go to Velindre, you have 100,000 fireworks exploding in unison, flowering as one, a glowing meteor crackling and glittering with delight as your weight is taken, radiating fun and hope and love, seething with joy in the sun-drenched car park when you go to Velindre. When you go to Velindre, you are a crescendo of light and fire, a bravura expression of enthusiasm, a far from damp squib, cascading adrenaline and vitality, shooting out sparks, a bumper presentation box of premium Guy Fawkes Day explosives, burning brightly for life. You are the Chinese New Year, the 4th of July, and Bastille Day. You have bonfire night and Mardi Gras and carnival on the streets of Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo. A shining explosion of colour. How those ancient Chinese would have been proud of you when you go to Velindre. I want to write the perfect love poem, as good as, if not better than, anything Shakespeare and all those others ever managed. Un poesia di amore, to celebrate you and all your doings. But it is not going to be easy. I must avoid the trite expression, the rampant cliche, and the hackneyed phrase, and ensure that the thought of you permeates every part of the poem, like fine wine seeping into a glass of pristine white sand. I need to write the perfect love poem, un poema de amor, that will ring down all the centuries like the finest peal bells ever heard anywhere in these islands, to forge something that will enchant, evoking feelings that are subtly different. But it has to be good. None of that chocolate box lovey-dovey roses or red stuff. This poem d'amour must extol you and all your virtues in a way that no one else has ever voiced before. I have to write the perfect love poem. Ein Liebesgedicht that does you justice, encapsulating your best features and capturing your essence. But how to clinch that so important closing line, get just the right quality to make people pause and say, in the name of all the troubadours and Minnesänger, why didn't I write that? I wish to write the perfect love poem, a cwtsh, the like of which has never been heard before, sharply honed and carefully polished like the precious gem you are, so that the thoughts from my head translate onto the page and send out a signal clear and strong, a lighthouse beam of love and affection. I long to write the perfect love poem. Ena Jubezenska Pesem, where all the words follow one another in the only order possible, without sounding sloppy or sentimental, striving to say all that is best about you, so that each word counts and hits the target every time. In short, I must get it just right. But how best to start? And with so many words to choose from, let me begin by contemplating the exquisite nature of your beautiful, perfect first name. Look, I know all those great poets of olden days waxed lyrical about their lady loves, comparing them to a summer's day and all that sort of stuff, and telling everybody how the light of their life was just like a red, red rose, and outshone the sun and the moon and the stars and all the rest of it, raving about their sweet, sweet smile, their timeless beauty, their dazzling personality, and anything else they could think of, and so on and so forth, till they ran out of ideas. But they never saw you, right? So I should try to remember you always like this. That day in D6 East, laughing and joking, a big smile on your face, arm and hand extended in a victory salute, as the porter prepared to take you in your wheelchair to be x-rayed. And I shall take my ease and sit in our back garden on this warm and pleasant July evening in the year 2018 and praise your astuteness, your courage and your bravery, and ponder how best to honour your memory, keep thoughts of you alive and living every day to recall you now that you are gone. Should I light a candle every single day, its flame a reminder of you? Should I learn to spray can a la Banksy and write Bojana was here on public buildings up and down the land? Train football crowds to chant your name, one Bojana, there's only one Bojana, erect statues, write songs, put up plaques, go on pilgrimage, raise edifices, just like Shah Jahan to his favourite wife Mumtaz Mahal, that will last not just now, but for years to come. Name horse races and hurricanes after you, whilst trying to hold on to your image as long as possible. So many have gone before, and so many will come after us. Yes, you live on in the minds of friends and family, a few neighbours, perhaps those who knew you whilst you were alive. But how can I get you to stand out, to live on long after your death, ensure your light burns forever? I must plant trees for you in precious woodland and scatter seeds to create bee-friendly wildflower meadows. And I should light bonfires on your birthday to recall you now that you are gone, and burn beacons here, there and everywhere for you, only for you. To spread your light far and wide, their flames a reminder of you. And I should carve your name with pride deep into the side of Triglav, the sacred Slovene holy mountain, and pay pilgrimage to all the places you ever lived or visited, so that you stand out amongst all the many who have gone before and the many who will come after you. And I must paint images of you on walls and public buildings all over the land, so that everyone will know of you, and your memory shall outlast statues and monuments and plaques on the sides of houses. And more than this, I should do everything to ensure you live on and endure like the wind and the rain endure, beyond the thoughts and memories of those who knew you during this life. And I must make certain that your spirit survives like the shining sun and the pale moon survive, and that generations yet to come shall know of the quintessential you, and the thought of you will be living and alive every morning, every afternoon, every evening and every night, and your light does not die. I must do all of this for you, just for you, only for you, always for you. And more than this, I should sing of you in all the languages that you knew, as often as I can, whenever it is most seemly, and learn to draw and paint in order to recreate your image as best I can. and ask the finest musicians I can find to write their very best works, extolling you and all your virtues. All of these things and more I should do for you to keep your presence, your soul, the very thought of you, your illustrious name, your essential being, your ghost ever present, and make sure that your light does not die and your spirit survives until the last bird sings its heart out. I try, yet again, to get to grips with your language, something I have done, somewhat half-heartedly, it must be said, on more than one occasion in the past. But it is very hard, with no common ground between it and the languages I already know, and with nothing familiar to hang on to. And why now? Why learn it now? Am I trying to overcompensate again for something I should have done years ago? Is this just the latest in a long line of false starts? I pick up my grammar book and try again. After all, how can I give up on your language, the only one I know, the only one in this whole wide world of ours with the word love written right through it like a stick of seaside rock? I grapple with its verb aspects. It's 3 genders. It's 6 cases, 2 more than German. Concepts you imbibe with your mother's milk. I struggle to know where exactly to place the correct stress on a particular syllable. You always said I could not stress Slovene words properly, but did so just like a Croatian. Something you absorbed effortlessly, bounce on your father's knee. I wrestle with this vocabulary. Most of it totally unlike any of the other languages familiar to me, a vocabulary that informed your early upbringing. I tussle with its double negatives, which, unlike their English equivalents, are perfectly correct grammatically. I battle with the dual, your language's most distinct and unique feature, which permeates both verb and noun forms. For example, vidva, you too, onatva, they too, and midva, we too. Except, of course, with every day that passes, it becomes more and more apparent that there is no longer any we too, no longer any midva. This is the reality. On this crisp and bright January afternoon, the hedges lining the road from Llanthony Pride to Capel of Finn are really very high, exceedingly so, just like those Japanese snow walls you sometimes see on news bulletins during the winter time. I say road, but it is more of a narrow track with scarcely room for 2 cars to pass. I've been here before, of course, but I had forgotten what exactly it was like, had forgotten how high the hedges were, only remembering the minuscule church with its hanging corn dolly you so much wanted to take home with you. 9 o'clock on a Saturday night, and there is a full moon filling the sky with light, illuminating the waters around Bangor Pier. Not that you ever cared much for the full moon. You thought they were much overrated. Too full of themselves by half, you always said. Forever hanging around the night sky, looking down on people, always darting across the heavens, hiding behind clouds, showing off. They were unpredictable. And anyway, they had their dark side, pretending to be made of green cheese, putting pressure on the tides, spawning tales of increased infertility, soaring crime rates and animal attacks, alarming blood loss during surgery, setting werewolves howling. Well, maybe or maybe not. All I know is this. Had you been there on that mid-September night in North Wales, even you would have found it hard to resist that pale cold beauty of this full to the brim, white rotund moon shining down on Bangor Pier, bathing everything beneath it in a pure white light. Here in this town, there is no trace of you, nor ever was. You did not climb the 199 steps leading to the abbey on the headland. You did not walk along the sands or eat in any of the many fish and chip restaurants. No one has seen you here. There is no trace of your comings and goings. You did not pass by the Captain Cook Museum. You never entered any of the many jet shops, although you would surely have loved them. Dracula is supposed to have come here, but you did not. I am a stranger here. I know no one in this place, and no one knows me. And it would have been the same for you, had you ever visited this place with its hordes of seagulls. And there were times, I know, when you would have wished you were here, sending your own postcards, rejoiced at the many bowls of water put out by shopkeepers for the visiting dog population, loved everything about this place as you gazed out to sea, thinking. The day after my 70th birthday, I come across a cache of horse chestnuts, or conkers as we used to call them, strewn all over the road and pavement in a part of the city I'd never seen them before. Had I noticed them earlier, say a year or two ago, I would have certainly gathered up a bagful or two to give to you for that ointment or cream you were always planning to make, to ease your aches and pains, but never quite got around to making. Now they are of no more use to me than yesterday's losing lottery ticket. Even so, I may still pick just one or two of the finest and best to take back with me as a reminder of days that have been. Putting the bins out late at night. Stand by, Anna. Sorry's mid-common. Shall I come too? You always used to say to me whenever I put the bins out late at night, sometimes at 2 or 3 in the morning of Monday and Tuesday. You didn't need to come. Of course, there was never anybody out there, only the occasional car trundling past, or a curious cat wondering what we were doing. But your presence was still a comfort. And we would look at the moon and scan the street, pick up a few dead leaves from the tree before going back in. Time moves on, and I still occasionally put the bins out late at night to be collected the next day, but not as often as I used to, and no one now asks, sorry's mid-common, shall I come too? As I go about my daily business, such as it is, are you there with me? Walking beside me, keeping pace, ever vigilant, watching on, ready to intervene on my behalf, to take my part, reaching out from the other side, poised to give me a sign, but I do not know it, I cannot see it. Or is this just the most wishful of all wishful thinking, clutching at broken straws time, wanting something to be true when I have no way of knowing? only the fragile hope that yes, somehow you are there and will be always. I see you coming towards me, arms outstretched as if in greeting, and for one brief second, a feeling of great joy explodes within me, possessing me, filling my heart and thrilling my whole body at the thought that we will lie down together once more. But none of this is real, I know. It is not even a dream, just random images of you going through my head as I walk the streets of this city, which I attempt to hone and polish and put in some sort of order so that it all hangs together like a proper poem. Sometimes it just comes over me, walking down that long road into town, or in unguarded moments, and always without warning and in waves of desolation. The realization that things are not now as they once were and never will be again. So, is this then the here and now, as good as it gets? And how will I know, with days unknown yet to come, and the future a book waiting to be written? On Christmas Day 2019, as on so many days before, I walked past your house. You know, the one you loved so much, the one you had such great plans for, what you were going to do to it when you moved in. On this Christmas Day, I walked past your house again. You know, the one you never actually lived in, the one you never came anywhere near, the one you never even set foot in, only inside your head, the one you never even saw in real life, only in the photograph in the estate agent's brochure. And now, others live inside your house. They eat their meals, they drive their cars. They do not know it is your house, and always will be, till seagulls perch in trees. In a different time, in another universe, I dial a certain number. Lazarus Detective Agency, says the voice on the other end of the line. Agent Orpheus speaking. How may I help? I want you to trace my own true love, I say. She's been gone so long now and I miss her. We'll need photographs, good quality photographs, says Orpheus. And her name. What's her name? Her name, I say, the most glorious name imaginable, the greatest name in all the world. Sometimes I dream that we are together again and engaged in ordinary domestic activities like sitting in the garden or talking to the neighbours. And everything is just as if you had never been away. Once upon a time, long before Corona, and just before it got light, we would steal from our house to hear the birds greet the new day and stand outside in the street, only the two of us and the singing birds, giving their feathered all in that urban setting. And if I were to do that now, rise from my bed and steal from my house in the early morning light to listen to those dizzying birds once more, would I hear even a trace of you amidst all that full-throated clamour,
Honeyed middle. Upon the honeyed middle of the night, wreathed in smiles, I rise from Leith is born. I rise in dreams, your image in my sight. I wake, the sight is fled, I fall forlorn. Remembrance only now consoles my rise of one sweet night when we did walk the street and found on Stow Hill our own paradise, and in each other all desires meet. Too often memories fade like dreams on waking, displaced by the exigencies of life, and business, like a cruel ogre taking our precious joys, places them with strife. But we too share an altar sacrosanct, although in fact we may be rather tanked. Bellevue Park, although in parts the view is stark, the lone and level rubble fields, a poor site clearance pill, derelict factories, metal box brutalities. Your terraces are resplendent, your trees magnificent, your bowling green is verdant, your fairy dell enchanting. And lift up your eyes beyond demolished Pill, the Channel, flanked by Mendip, Quantock and beyond. Grassholm and Flathome, two soft nebulae in the effulgence of reflecting sea. Bellevue Park, although in parts the view is stark, you're still the park for me. Silurians once delved, their ramparts still surround the top, each stone brought up by hand. On the slopes of Tumbalum, our childhood holidays played, with a packet of crisps and a bottle of pop, picking windberries or crashing through the black bracken all the livelong days. Across Eos Reservoir, no nightingales now sing, no raucous shouts of summer bold, trespassing youth, tombstoning from the dam, but still, the whinnying calls of dabchicks can still occasionally be heard, even in November. On the slopes of Tumbalum now, strange foragers iterate, eyes ever chained down to Tumbalum's turf, ever seeking, never finding the matchless highs of long ago in Liberty Caps.
Strictly for kicks. The Argentine tango is a dance that I love, and on Strictly I dream that it's me on the floor with kicks and with flicks in stiletto so high and a tight satin skirt that slit up to the thigh. For some lessons I paid, cost a leg and an arm, from a gaucho so macho with much Latin charm. His face was tanned brown, his teeth whitely gleamed, and he tossed back long hair that was all brilliantined. He said, "Buenos dias, Julio is my name. I'm from Buenos Aires, and the tango's my game. I teach all the steps, all the kicks, that's my boast." But my kicks caught him where it hurts a man most. He yelled, "Oh, bloody hell!" in a voice some tones higher. "Oh, my poor tender parts, feels like they're on fire." I looked at him shocked. "You're no Julio, you devil." He said, "No, I'm Barry, I'm from Tonnerevel." I said, "Why pretend to be Argentinian?" He said, "Our mam told me to, 'cause in her opinion, for teaching the tango, a dance that's erotic, you need to be foreign, someone exotic." Well, I can't teach for a while now, not bent double this way. I'll have to charge you for the rest of the day. I said, "I'm not going to defray your expenses. You've taken my money under false pretenses." And then he turned a bit nasty. He said, "With your feet, not tango but clog dancing's more up your street." So here I am now, disillusioned, subdued. Strictly has started, but I'm not in the mood. My dreams of the tango, all gone to the dogs. So I'll switch off the telly and pick up my clocks. Still up for it. When the young use expressions like senile, old git, geriatric, well, that gets my goat. Okay, I remember the tanner and the threepenny bit, but I wasn't around for the groat. I still have my marbles. Oh yes, I do. I've still got the whole set. It's just that now and again I mislay a few, and names I often forget. My face by now has had much wear and tear. Time's played havoc with my complexion, but when I look in the mirror, I don't mind what's there, because the cataracts blur my reflection. If you're looking for company, give me a shout. Invitations I rarely decline. I enjoy good wine. I like to dance and eat out, but I'm usually ready for bed about 9. But I'm not ready to give in, not to give in to old age. It's just that I want to delay it. If there's a part left to play on life's wonderful stage, then I'm up for it. I want to play it. And it's not now a question of speed, but of pace. I've no question to make record time. I don't want to be first, second, even third place, just to get to the finishing line. When the time comes, as it will, there's no doubt, when I finally face the Grim Reaper, oh, don't spend on a funeral. Just put me out for waste savers, it'll be cheaper.
To the litter box west of the moon. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was meow. There were other words too. And but meow was Great Cato's favourite, and she used it a lot. She meowed to herself as she galumphed about the heavens. She meowed at the boundless space and the eternal night. And she meowed at the demons she knew, just knew were there, but which did not in fact exist as she had not yet created them. Every now and then, Great Cato would cease her galumphing and her meowing and snooze. Millennia passed while Great Cato snoozed, and at these times the universe would heave a sigh of relief and enjoy the blissful peace and quiet until she should awake once more. For awake she would, and the meowing would recommence in earnest. If there had been a door in the universe, Great Cato would have scratched at it and demanded to be let out. If the demons had existed, they would have opened it for her. But there was no door. There was nothing. Great Cato was the supreme creator, but so far she had not got round to creating anything. Meowing and snoozing were quite time-consuming enough for her, and she saw no need to introduce any more demanding activities into her endless hours. Sometimes, for variety, she would stick her leg into the air and wash herself. Occasionally, to mix things up even further, she would tumble backwards into the celestial space, feign surprise, and leap upwards, as if to face the invisible foe that had interrupted her grooming. But there was no foe. There was still nothing. And eventually Great Cato became bored with her meowing and her snoozing and her grooming, and she made up her mind to create something new, something to play with, maybe several somethings. She started small. Her first creations were tiny dots of light, little pinpricks skimming and skipping across the reaches of the universe, which humans would later call stars. Erratically they travelled, little pinpricks skimming and skipping across the reaches of the universe, which humans would later call stars. Erratically they travelled, popping in and out of view, and Great Cato's predatory instincts were aroused. She chased them to her heart's content. She exulted in their strangeness and their unpredictability, and she was glad of her creation. After time, however, the stars too began to bore Great Cato. They were slippery and evasive, and she grew tired and irritable, and came to desire a nap. But she was older now, and more weary, and required more comfort than the bare universe was able to provide. And so she created 7 new stars, and out of these she made a great box, and she set the box in pride of place amidst the heavens. And the crowning glory of this box was a tail that resembled her own, sticking up from the rear. Humans would later come to know this as the plough, but to Great Cato it was her box, and she leapt into it, and she curled up, and she slept. For millennia she slept, and again the universe breathed. And when she awoke, she was refreshed and ready to play. This time she knew exactly what to do. She created an array of round objects to swat across the sky and pursue like the stars. But unlike the stars, these objects would be easier to catch, and when her interest waned, she would fix them in place so she could easily find them again. She created 9 of these spheres. The first was big and bright and glorious, almost too beautiful to play with, and so she placed it at the heart of the heavens, the better to light her endeavours. The second was too small, so she butted it off into the furthest reaches of the newly created shadows. Around a third, she made great rings that rattled as she smacked it hither and thither. 6 more she created in various sizes, and she spent many joyful millennia rolling around the firmament with her new toys. But then, as she paused for breath, lolling and lounging and licking herself amidst the darkness and the light and the stars and the spheres, it struck her that she could do more than just play. Her talents were many, and she was indeed the creator, so why not aim higher, much higher? She could create a new form of life, a species in her image, and gift them a sphere of their own to live on. Great Cato yawned deeply. It felt like a lot of work, but the thought of creating a race of Catos in her likeness to rule over their sphere as she governed the universe was too irresistible. She therefore raised a paw and with a flick brought into being the prettiest sphere yet, a delicate green and blue globe, which she placed in a gap between the others, close to the big bright one so that it could bask in its light. And then great Cato raised herself on her celestial haunches, opened a maw that was as deep and dark as the horizon, and began to make a loud heaving sound that echoed across the void of space. Out they came, one by one, miniature Catos came bursting out of that giant throat, hairballing through the skies as they were flung towards the green and blue globe. One by one they descended, floating gently now on great Cato's warm breath and settling on the ground of their new home. And one by one they looked around in awe and wonder at this brave new world and at themselves, the creatures in it. Great Cato looked down upon her firstborn, and she smiled and was proud. I shall grant them 9 lives, she said, and they shall rule as gods.
This is called Flat Hen. A flat hen peeled herself off the tarmac, staggered across the road, and called at the nearest house to borrow a bicycle pump. The valve wouldn't fit a misshapen beak, but the kindly neighbour jammed it down her throat and pumped her back to her original shape. Thank you, she clucked before taking off home as fast as she could, slowly deflating all the way. I'm going to read that poem again in a language which isn't English and isn't Welsh as far as I know. En Flattenklucker von Taring Pielen strambelt trans dan Autostrassel es kaludelt door nachli Kashuis waartoe Begling een Vellepompel. Valvo pastot vittels a Bickelbrocken, mas del Kindel Nagel Jamly und Zagargelpip, es Pompels a Returgels in Nurtle Formeling. Grattings, Cluckles for 11 Wuffen zu Hommel fastlich zet Kudden, Lingly Poofel, om de Waggle. Newport in my heart. My right atrium is St. Woolos Cathedral. Light filters through the east window, revealing a hollow body of stone, modest and magnificent. The right ventricle is lined with mosaics, left by the Romans in Caelian. The blue water of the main bath sloshes to the beat of a bass drum. A punk band plays beneath the creaking rafters of the left atrium, almost drowning out the drinkers of the Murringer gathered in the left ventricle. Look, there's some fool trying to recite poetry by the heaving doors of a mitral valve. A pulmonary artery is the River Usk, straddled by the proudly metallic aorta of the transporter bridge, standing in tribute to the engineers who had the audacity to build it. Trees sprout through the outer walls where Bellevue Park lies. Veins form paths across the lawns, looking out over the city and golden reed beds of the wetlands centre, and the white speck of lighthouse on the cliff tops beyond, where the city's pulse sends ripples across the ocean. And this last poem is about Barry, not Barry Island, but Barry the shark. Barry is a basking shark. He doesn't care for meat. He finds it far too chewy and it sticks between his teeth. Instead, he opens his big mouth wide and all his food swims inside. He swallows lots of water too. I bet he always needs the loo. Barry swims and eats all day, enjoying life in a chilled out way. One time after eating his fill, Barry began to feel quite ill. His belly ached, he turned white as a sheet, he was violently sick and shook like a leaf. He cried, "What's going on? The water's so mucky, I'm sick as a dog, and my food tastes all yucky." He swam to the surface, and what he saw then enraged him so much he was sick once again. An old ship was chugging along through the waves, spreading a trail of oil all the way. The people on board, would you believe, were throwing their rubbish into the sea. Plastic bags, bottles and half-eaten sandwiches, batteries, a fridge and a load of old bandages. Barry exclaimed, "How terribly rude! How dare they come here and ruin my food?" He told all the other sharks what he had seen, so they held a big meeting and came up with a scheme. They swam off together with no time to lose to find that old ship and its horrible crew. When they were near, they swam round from all sides, then jumped in the air with their mouths open wide. The crew never knew quite what happened next, as 100 huge sharks landed on deck. They ate all the people in 10 seconds flat, and I think you'll agree they deserved that. The sharks all declared the taste was quite vile, but then Barry said with a devilish smile, "If any more come, I'll eat them up too, so let that be a lesson to you. Barry won't bite, he's a gentle old soul, but mess with the ocean and he'll swallow you whole."
Okay, so this is based on the promise of Revelation 21, and I play a lot on the word the end. So the end is the beginning of the word endorphin, the end of the beginning of the word. The end is the beginning of love's promise to end man-made trauma, grief and pain, to end inner turmoil and confusion, to end abuse, regret and shame, to end the sickness of mind delusion, to end the trauma, grief and pain. The end is the beginning of the word endorphin. The end is the beginning of the word. The end is the beginning of God's promise to end man-made trauma, grief and pain. The end is the promise of salvation. The end is the promise of rebirth. The end is the conscious healing message for peace and heaven here on earth. The end is the beginning of the word endorphin. The end is the beginning of the word. The end is the beginning of love's promise to end man-made trauma, grief and pain. The end is the promise of new heaven, where truth will set us free from pain, where mourning will be completed for love to reside in us again. The end is the beginning of the word endorphin, where the stones will cry out for rebirth. The end is the beginning of the word endorphin, for peace and heaven here on earth.
This poem is called "It's All Greek to Me." Okay? The ancient Greeks thought Aristotle had no bottle, and they should know. He's a thinker, they said, not a drinker. He likes to tinker with words. They preferred Plato, who didn't like NATO and was good for a laugh. As for Socrates, he had no time for mediocrities. He couldn't be doing with them. Unlike Pythagoras, who made no fuss and would jangle his triangle for anybody. The Stoics eschewed heroics. Beneath their dignity, they said. They thought all Spartans were charlatans, forever going on about the Persians and the Battle of Thermopylae. Hippocrates was a great one for oaths. He would swear and curse till the hearse came home. He would effing blind and be unkind to every person he met. Screw you, he said to Archimedes, who left from his bath shouting, Eureka, I'm a streaker. Homer was a roamer who got as far as Cromer and then thought, stick all this personal odyssey stuff, I'm out of here. I could go on for weeks about the ancient Greeks, but that would be for geeks and a bit of a marathon. So, in the immortal, it gets worse as the evening goes on, I can assure you. So in the immortal words of Euripides, who was fond of a tease, of Euripides, who was a tease and fond of a squeeze, no more please, Sophocles. Thank you. And this is called It Must Be Love. What is the matter with me, I asked. I think you're in love, said the aromatherapist. But does she smell nice? Yes, love and light all right, said the pagan shaman. It certainly is, said the feng shui specialist. Make you sure you paint her front door red, that ought to do it. We know she swings your pendulum, but does she look good in trousers, said the dowsers. I don't want to put my foot in it, said the reflexologist. But give her this massage from me. Get in the lotus position quick, said the yoga woman, that'll sort it out. Don't get too starry-eyed, said the astrologist. She's a Capricorn, you're a Libra. The signs are not good. Okay, so you're in love, but must you keep going round in crop circles, said Reg Presley. Do what you like, said the druid. Just don't take her to Stonehenge. I want to hold your hand, said the palmist. Took me hours agonising over that line, I can assure you. Oh, crikey, said the Reiki practitioner, you've got it bad. It's nothing major, said the New Ager. A fortnight in Glastonbury will soon cure it. Get off my back, said the chiropractor. It's only a crush, that's all. I have a few points to make, said the acupuncturist. It's a karma, she's a charmer, said the llama. I see what you mean, said the psychic, but she might not like it. Is there anybody there, said the happy medium. Oh, stop it, said my wife. Yeah. That was one of my earlier poems, as you can see. Now, this is called Friday Night Out, and this is about, those who don't know Newport, this is about the Engineers' Arms, which used to be in the railway line, near the railway line, just coming out of Newport towards Cardiff. And one time it was the place to be, and then it went downhill, and everybody kept saying, oh, we love the Munger, not the Munger, we love the Engineers' Arms. They can't have loved it all that much, because it's flats now, you see, so. But what can you do? This is called Friday Night Out. In the back bar of the Engineers' Arms, some unknown group is blasting out Jimi Hendrix's All Along the Watchtower and other favourites from a bygone age. And I kid you not here, you have to sign in your contract you played there, you have to play one of Jimi Hendrix's songs, or so it seemed to me at the time. They are loud, very loud, not just killing conversation, stone cold dead, but cremating it and casting its ashes far out at sea. Even so, their energy fills the room, their youthful enthusiasm making old rockers hearts, that's the word I'm looking for, making old rockers' hearts beat again to the rhythm of their younger days. A solitary woman dances to their music, but no one wishes to be her partner. not even the ghost of the 60s they have so tangibly conjured up tonight. On my way to the toilet, which is an occupational hazard of going to the Engineer's Arms that was, I could swear the 4 musicians are playing, but there are only 3 mystics, as they call themselves. 2 guitars and a drummer, just like Jimmy. Only they come from Cardiff. Is this what you get from binge drinking 4 pints on a Friday night? Failure to count properly? Afterwards, I walk up the middle of Carer Road. This is about 11:15 at night now, of course. Dodging the taxi drivers out to get me, touching every tree I can find. What will you say to me when I get home? All the poets are in love with my wife. Who is this Shakespeare guy who keeps writing to you? You think I don't notice, but I've seen his letters with a Stratford-on-Avon postmark. And why does Geoffrey Chaucer keep phoning you night and day, long distance from Canterbury? He hangs up when I answer, but I'm on to him. You say Friday night is girls' night out with Emily Dickinson, Sylvia Plath, and Elizabeth Barrett Browning. But I know better. You've been seen pub crawling in Deptford with a certain Christopher Marlowe. Yesterday I found your address book. You dropped it on a piece of wasteland. It was full of names I'd never heard of. Ezra Pound, T.S. Eliot, William Carlos Williams. Who are all these people? Some tramp knocked on the door last night asking for you. He said his name was W.H. Davis and he brought you a kingfisher. Put it with Mr. Ted Hughes' crow, I told him. Even in the park, they won't leave you alone. I went there on Saturday, and every single tree has got your name on it, carved in a heart. That David ap Gwilym has a lot to answer for. A friend said he'd seen you eating in Dante's Pizzeria. You were talking about the Four Seasons with Keats, Shelley and Lord Byron. I don't mind them so much, but it's these Germans, Goethe, Schiller and Heine, sorry Anna, parked outside our house all day long in that VW bus of theirs. If they don't move soon, I shall set the Rottweilers, Homer and Virgil, onto them. Now the neighbours are complaining about a Robert Burns stealing their prize red roses to give to you. They say they'll call the police if William Blake doesn't take his tiger away. Where do you get them from? The worst of it all is these constant notes from Anonymous accusing you of dancing in the library with Philip Larkin. What's going on? I don't know who they are or what they want from you, but I'll get to the bottom of it, or my name's not Dylan Marlice Thomas. The making of this poem. No animals were harmed or hurt in any way during the making of this poem. Well, I might have shouted at the cats occasionally, but they don't take any notice. At no time did I require the services of a dialect coach, what you may think was all he needed. I kept on top of proceedings without the need to get a grip, key grip, dolly grip, canvas grip, rigging grip or grip gang boss. I had no truck with drivers, unit drivers, transportation captains, caterers, prop makers or stand-ins, clapper loaders and boom operators. No script writers, directors or producers, stunt women or stunt men were involved in the making of this poem. I was my very own best boy, the best I could possibly be to write this poem without the aid of set dressers, carpenters, electricians, costume designers, location managers and special effects. So, when the time comes, as it surely will, for the Oscar winning ceremony, my acceptance speech will refer to 3 people only. Me, myself and I, plus of course my mother and father, without whom none of this, absolutely none of it, would have been even remotely possible. Elvis lives. Elvis has just entered the building with his hound dog old Shep and shows no signs of wanting to leave. You're looking well. You're looking well, we say. What have you been up to all this time? This and that, he says, wheeling and dealing, going with the flow, all that sort of stuff. For a while I hung out with Poke Salad Annie. We were pretty close. I felt a real burning love for her. She was always on my mind. She made my jailhouse rock. She let me be her teddy bear. But she turned out to be the devil in disguise. Elvis, she said, I have something to tell you, and it's now or never. See a pattern emerging over the course of the series. I tried, but I'm just not stuck on you. Don't be cruel, I said. Love me tender, I'm your good luck charm. But she left me there, crying in the chapel. I sent her love letters straight from my heart, but the US mail just sent them right back. Marked returned to sender. The last I heard of her, she was living in the ghetto with some fancy guitar man. Boy, was I devastated. I checked into the nearest heartbreak hotel, but room service was dreadful. They'd ring me up, ask if I was lonesome tonight, laugh and put the phone down. These hotels, you know. I'd leave my blue suede shoes outside the door at night, but they never once got cleaned. So I left that place, started working down the chip shop. It's a living, all the free cod and place you can eat. And the big boss man's little sister ain't half bad either. But she's the girl of my best friend, his latest flame. I tried impersonating myself to take my mind off her. I figured everyone else was doing it, so why not me? So I put my name down for the Viva Las Vegas nightclub open mics. Never again. Big mistake, they booed me off stage. Call yourself an impersonator, they shouted. That phony accent is fooling nobody. And that fake Blue Moon of Kentucky t-shirt. The real Elvis would never wear such a cheap imitation. Well, what can you do? No point in getting all shook up about these things. Some people have got suspicious minds. Nothing you can do about it. Sometimes I think that a fool such as I had it coming to him. But that's all right, Mama, because any day now, the world will see that I did it my way. It's called Lots of Words, right? So, my stick to forward. When I woke up this morning, there was nobody in my bed. My muse had gone, upped and left me without a single word. Nothing. Nada, niente. Not even a farewell note written in Titian red lipstick on my bathroom mirror, you know, for old time's sake. Now, when I see her in the street, she just passes me by, ignores me, cuts me deader than last week's North Sea mackerel on a fishmonger's wet slab. I call out to her, stop a while, won't you? Just show me a little of that old inspiration. Something, anything, to kickstart my imagination. But she's got other friends now. They flatter her. Tell her how beautiful she is. Ply her with Retsina and show her pictures of Lord Elgin's marbles. No one's ever seen before in return for a cute opening stanza or a clincher of a closing line. But they can't give her what I can. I know they can't. Oh Muse, why have you forsaken me? I send you cards and flowers and knock on your door whilst down on one knee. But I know you're laughing at me, sharing your ideas with other men Yes, and women too, leaving me out here clueless in the creative world, forgetting how much we went to each other, all the good times we had. Oh, Musy, baby, don't leave me all alone with my days in torment and my head on the writer's block for all to see. I visit the places we used to go, hoping for a sign, but nothing comes. I find no spark. Ideas hide from me. Words desert me since you moved out and took them with you. Oh, Musy, darling, was it something I said? I long for the days when we are both together, a couple, a twosome, a loving pair, and you would point things out to me, make suggestions, lead me in the path of the right word, the exact phrase, show me what had to be said. Please come back, it's not the same without you. Once we made such sweet soul music together. Now I struggle to write a note to the local tradesmen. I get as far as dear milk. And the words, well, they just won't come without you by my side. All you left was the blank screen, the empty piece of paper, the vacant notebook with nothing on it, not a rhyme, not a syllable, not a consonant. Oh, Musy, sweetheart, lighten my life again. Please do come back. I promise to take you to Zorba the musical next time it comes to town. Oh, muse, my love and my delight, oh, mistress mine, say you will return, just like General Douglas MacArthur in the Philippines. My pens are missing you. My pencils are longing for you. My unfinished verses are pining for you. Forget all these others chasing you, stalking you, flirting with you and trying to turn your head. Bunch of wannabes, all of them. Poetic pretenders. Vapid or vapid wordsmiths. Not worthy to light your candle or trim your quill. Sure, we may have had our differences, but deep down inside, you know, don't you, that I'm the one true one and always have been. So one afternoon, walking along Preston Avenue and minding my own business, I looked up to see a large red dragon flag staring out of somebody's window. Before you could say Nostar, Cymru and Bith, or even Bread of Heaven, Ryan Giggs, this is the days when he was still popular, of course, or Oggy Oggy Oggy, the dragon had jumped out of the flag, melting the tower where he landed. Then he ran off up the road, swearing in Welsh and mumbling something about Owain Glyndŵr. Everybody started talking at once and blaming the council. Bloody Welsh nationalists, said an old woman waving a stick, coming round here all the time eating their leeks and throwing their rugby balls. I'll give them Welsh cakes, flashing their mutations about whenever they feel like it. Send them all to, not Rwanda, but send them all to Patagonia is what I say. Meanwhile, back in the high street, the dragon was busy lightly toasting the toes of all those passers-by who did not know the words to the national anthem. And I'm not talking about God Save the King here either. And then burning all the English-only signs he could find. It's what King Arthur would have wanted, he shouted to the drunks outside the pub, cheering him on. Send for the fire brigade. Send for the RSPCA Cymru. Send for Wyatt Earp, shouted one of the local Max Boyce imitators. Holy Bruce Lee, cried the dragon, who had found a harp and started to play it. Where is the nearest Chinese takeaway? I want to parade up and down outside it, shouting, this is the year of the dragon. This is the year of the dragon. But first, said the mythical beast, whose sponsors included Carmarthen Speedway Dragons, Glamorgan Cricket Club Dragons, Wrexham Football Club Dragons, and Newport Gwent Rugby Club Dragons, not to mention Red Dragon Radio and Dragon Taxi of Newport. I have more important things to do I must away to London to sort out that loser St. George once and for all. Who's with me? Well, what do you expect when you let the dragon out of the flag? This is called On the Streets of Newport, Gwent, South Wales, April 2014. And I dedicate this to Paul Davis, who had an exhibition here not so long ago of scenes he'd taken of rock followers outside the venues waiting for their latest Bruce Springsteen or Rolling Stones, where it was, to perform. And he died sadly on this year, but he liked this poem, so I got a Bruce Springsteen, so I dedicated it to him. On one Saturday night and Sunday morning, I was listening to the Bob Harris show on Radio 2 when Whispering Bob suddenly started playing On the Streets of Philadelphia by Bruce Springsteen, which got me to thinking, what if Bruce had written On the Streets of Newport instead? He'd have arrived incognito, of course. Dark glasses essential, maybe one of those big Stetson hats, and a stretch limo to get around in. He wouldn't want to be recognised and block the traffic now, would he? Not to mention all those adoring groupies shouting out, one Bruce Springsteen, there's only one Bruce Springsteen. Well, Bruce, being a pretty observant type of guy, would soon notice the streets of Newport are paved with patrolling pigeons and sometimes strewn with litter. They throng with travel agents and estate agents, pawnbrokers, nail bars and hairdressers. All this Bruce sees, sitting stoically in Starbucks, clocking the mothers, pushing their prams past the big issue sellers, and the people shouting at each other from open car windows. Turn the page now then. He checks out the abandoned empty shops, the closed hotels and failed public houses. Sound familiar to all young Portonians? While simultaneously thinking to himself, why am I here? Listening to these buskers mauling and mangling my songs, laying waste to born to run and slashing and burning born in the USA, and no Waitrose in sight when I could be in London, England, living the high life, tasting our Dolce Vita. Oh well, he thinks, sinks his coffee and eyes up strange statues, saying hi to the pensioners sitting on benches smoking. All right, Bruce, they say, how's it going? But Bruce only has eyes for a girl with blue hair, as he takes evasive action to avoid the cyclists riding bikes, which is strictly illegal and merits a £30 fine, but there are never any coppers around to enforce it. So Bruce tramps the streets of Newport, sometimes finding time to stand and stare, and somehow resisting the urge to throttle the nearest busker. He looks up at the first floor facades of the buildings surrounding him, which are mainly Victorian and a joy to contemplate, apart from a few glaring, ugly modern-day exceptions, and gazes at the charity shops, cheap shops, pound-a-time shops, boarded-up shops, betting shops, and coffee shops lining the streets of Newport. Later, dancing in the dark with a green-haired girl, because the night belongs to lovers, he is singing, not Philadelphia was never like this, or I'd rather be in Philadelphia, or even Philadelphia Freedom. None of these are going round and round in his head, only the words and music of a new song, slowly beginning to form, the faint outlines of a song that no one will ever hear him sing, a song he will later call On the Streets of Newport. Time 2. I've had a few shots of this, but luckily I'm only going to read one. I should have known when I asked you for a date that you would not give a French fig for me. Sure, you split your banana with me, and you even let me beat you at orange squash every now and then. I was the pineapple of both your eyes, you said. But oh, boysenberry, how you put me through the mango. You really made my rhubarb crumble. You trifled with me, you lied cheat to me. And yet I, carambola, apparently carambola's a sort of fruit, so I'm told. You were so golden delicious. I would have squeezed blood oranges out of a stone for you, but you played me for a gooseberry fool. You were not the damsel in distress you pretended to be. As the dewberries lay on the grass, you told me it was time to stop beating about the mulberry bush. You were pruning me from your life, you said. But I thought we were a pair, I cried. And I so loved your strawberry hair. I fell, I plumbed the depths. I felt quite melancholy. So life wasn't just a super bowl of cherries after all. But you were hard as pomegranate. You just laughed, sipped your lemon tea, threw me a raspberry. No sour grapes, mind. In your tangerine dress, you looked a real peach, a proper passion fruit, an absolute sweetie. Thank you very much. And this next poem is someone else. It's a favourite theme for me. It's called...
Sorry, Alan, but I've got to leave now.
Okay, thank you,
Okay.
Barbara. Thanks for coming. Thanks very much. Thanks very much.
It's been really enjoyable, Alan. I think your poems are wonderful.
Thank you. Can you give me that in writing later on, Barbara? So I can have
Say it, Barbara. I'm
Yeah.
a celebrity. Get me out of here.
This next poem is called Rosa Luxemburg Comes to Newport. As you know, Rosa Luxemburg was the Marxist agitator back in 1890s odd, and she was put in prison by the Kaiser in the First World War. And then when the Kaiser abdicated, Germany fell apart, and all these different warring bands were fighting each other. And sadly, one of these right-wing Freedom Corps, as they call themselves, Friars Corps, arrested Rosa and killed her. And she had a cat called Mimi. One for Gwyneth down there. She had a cat called Mimi, who features in this poem. And a friend of mine, I used to see him occasionally in Iceland, not the country, because I'd never been there, the shop down in Florida. And he used to say, he swore to me that Rosa Luxemburg had been to Newport. And I said, what's this new to me? I never heard of this. And he said, yeah, why didn't you write a novel about it? See how people always pushing their things onto you? Why don't you write a novel? I thought, well. So I see him again, and eventually I thought, well, I won't write a poem, I won't write a novel, I'll write a poem about it. So I tried to find evidence, and she, as far as I know, she never did come to Newport. Except in this poem. Rosa Luxemburg comes to Newport, and the station master bows and scrapes, doffs his top hat, whilst the assembled South Wales comrades form a guard of honour and rush to drive her to the newly opened transporter bridge, the wonder of the River Usk. And for a few days at least, Rosa forgets, as she basks in the adulation, the hardship of the early years, growing up a Polish Jew in Russian-occupied Poland, the Tsarist oppression, the casual, constant, everyday anti-Semitic abuse. By day, Rosa addresses the crowds, holds discussions with coal miners' representatives and steel workers, meets the suffragettes, lays flowers on Chartist graves, visits the Westgate, walks with a limp. Hers is not a conventional beauty, though she does not lack for suitors. At night, she writes long letters home to friends in Germany. Asleep, she dreams of her pet cat Mimi. Come, she says, lie down next to me, why don't you? For in you I know I can trust. If Rosa, Red Rosa as they call her, if she stays here in Newport, in this Edwardian town, if she stays here on the banks of the River Us, she avoids the years ahead in the Kaiser's prisons, the rifle butts, the pistol shot to the temple, the watery grave in Berlin's Landwehr Canal. But Rosa, Red Rosa, the Marxist ideologue, the firebrand orator, does not know, cannot know what lies ahead for her, what fate awaits her, for even she is no more capable of foretelling the future than her beloved cat, Mimi. My best friends are cats. Any cat lovers here? This is for you. Any cat not so much lovers here? This is for you. Some of my best friends are cats. Small, furry animals, the vets call them. But I say they are hard-headed chances, searching and probing for any sign of weakness, out to take you for everything they can get. Professional freeloaders whose first, last, and only thoughts are feed me, stroke me, pamper me, for I am insatiable. Stare into my eyes, they say. Let yourself be hypnotized by my feline glare. Oh sure, they look like cute little bundles of fun, but don't you believe it. They're four-legged dictators, ever eager to extract the micro. They'll stand by you till the last tin of cat food. And then, it's so long, sucker. This cat's jumping ship. It's every Tom for himself now. But don't you worry. Just like Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back as soon as I get hungry again. I'll sit on your sofa and lie on your bed. Just keep those tidbits coming, won't you? And in return, I will bring you all the dead mice and birds you are ever likely to need. So, and this one is called Tell That to the Birds. So we go from cats to birds. Tell that to the birds. I remember the day you first started stalking me. You were just larking about, you said. But I could feel your golden eagle eyes on me, watching me like a sparrowhawk. You were with me when I flew my red kite. You sat beside me on the Big Dipper, called me chicken when I ducked. You were there in court when they fined me for jaywalking. You watched me eating kiwi fruit. I should have known there was something strange about you. All those late night Bill Oddie videos, the Newcastle United jerseys on the walls, the piles of second-hand Eagle comics, the boxes of discarded Swan Vestas, your peculiar fondness for bunting. But I just didn't twig. I told myself it was only a hobby. I tried to forget the constant invitations to view your photographs of long-tailed tits, your refusal to leave the house whenever Rod Hull's Emu was on television. Sure, you stuffed your pipe full of condom tobacco, but who gave it you raisin spoonbill? I was really chuffed. I had such a good-looking bird. You were my own little chickadee, my darling kittiwake, my bird of paradise. But then you turned nasty, accused me of chickening out, of ducking my responsibilities, of swanning off every chance I got to the Cock and Pheasant for a swift half of Bulmer's woodpecker and a sip or two of famous grouse before sneaking into the Chinese takeaway for a post-midnight portion of bird's nest and Peking duck. In vain I protested that it was all a load of dunnocks. In vain I told you to stop burying your head in the sand. I begged you to give up those old reruns of the Maltese Falcon, to read something other than One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. But you would not listen. You started to give me the bird in private, hinting that I was an albatross around your white throat, a grey-faced buzzard, a parasitic Jaeger. And then you began to snipe at me in public. Pallid cuckoo, you hurled at me in front of all those people. Great northern loon, you yelled at me. Blue-faced booby, you screamed. Great bustard, you scrawled on my door. Greater racket-tailed drongo, you bawled down the phone. I'm going to skewer you, you screeched. Get ready to join the dodo, you shrieked, as you threatened to wring my wry neck. Just a second. I can't deny it was all hard to swallow. That always gets it, that line. I was working on that. I became a road runner, puffing with exertion, pounding the streets and pavements, desperate to get away from you, craning my neck to see if you were following, quailing at the thought of you somewhere in the distance, wearing your black cap with its distinctive gold crest, waiting to hit me with your yellow hammer. Somehow, I managed to escape your talons. I became an economic migrant, flying all the way to Australia to hide from you. I should feel safe here, but even now I cross the road to avoid a wampu fruit dove. I shudder when I hear the sound of the mute swan. I tremble when I see two blue tits attacking a fat ball. Remember, once bitten, twice shy. Thank you, Field Mouse. Thanks a lot. And don't worry, it'll be over in a few minutes. This is called, I don't know if this ever happened to you. To the person or persons unknown who took my mobile phone. You found it, have you?
No, I'm still using it.
Still using it? I knew there's something wrong about you when I first met you. All right. So it's my fault for leaving it on the back seat of the bus going to Teesside Risker sometime after 25 to 6 in the evening of Monday, April the 14th, 2008. You can see it on my mind. That was foolish of me and not at all clever. I should have been more careful. But then you didn't exactly go public with your find, did you? You could have sprinted to the front of the bus shouting, "Stop, driver! I found a mobile phone whose owner will be sorely missing it." You could have knocked on the bars of your local police station, shouting, "Constable, open up! I have something to declare, namely a missing phone." But you didn't. You chose not to. And for that, may your cat reject you. The airlines eject you. The newspapers deject you. You robbing, thieving, lost soul of a human being. Yes, I'll have it back at the end of the performance, thank you. Yeah. That looks better than the one that went missing in 2008. Yeah. May your lights fuse occasionally, your television switch itself off, and your friends sometimes go silent when you enter the room. May your personal calls cut off in their prime, your texts break up, your shooting down rocket ship games refuse to function. You stealing, wheeling, dealing failure of a conniving, nicking, miserable, two-timing, doppelganger imposter of a Homo sapiens. May your tea go cold very quickly. May lightning strike your weather vane and black rain fall above your... No, that should be a black rain fall upon your uncovered head. May your beer never taste just right. You pilfering, light-fingered, appropriating, dirtbag scion of an unmarried couple. Yes, friends tell me it's all fair game. Finders, keepers and all that. But I don't see it that way. You kept what was not rightfully yours. And for that alone may dogs bark at you when the clock strikes midnight and the moon is full. May seagulls dive bomb you when you least expect it, and your taps never stop dripping. You pinching, half-inching son or daughter of parents whose names are not to be found on any marriage register. May you every now and again be in the right place at the wrong time. And your glass often be 1/4 full. May the times you live in be less than interesting. And your wheelie bins frequently be unemptied. You person or persons of uncertain parentage, you taker of other people's phones, looking for inspiration, which I'm sure has been often happened to everyone in the room, looking for inspiration. Just not so often as it happens to me, you know. I go round inspiration's house, looking for help and some friendly pointers. It's been so long since we last touched base together, but all is dark and empty looking, and the curtains are drawn. I knock the door anyway, 3 times for luck, but no one answers, no one comes. I hire private detectives to track down inspiration, but they can find no trace. I alert town criers to oh yea all over the land, but their best efforts prove in vain. I plaster the town with posters. Wanted, inspiration, large reward offered, but no one comes forward. After much pondering, I blitz all the social media I can find. Inspiration, where are you? Please, please make contact, call me. I need to speak with you. I search the internet, trawling for clues. Everywhere I go, I leave little notes, imploring inspiration to get in touch. But all is blind alleys, cul-de-sacs and dead ends. Inspiration has gone to ground. It's lying low, hiding somewhere, in a safe house maybe, in a place beyond my reach. So I wait, but time passes, and still there is no word. Slowly, I begin to realize this may take a while. And this, you may or may not be glad to hear, is the last poem, if I can find it. So I apologise to those people without an intimate knowledge of Newport. This is called the Newport Blues. I got those 21st century talking Newport City blues. Those muddy waters of the River Usk Transporter Bridge, St. Widdess Cathedral blues. Those slate grey Newport skies, the rain is coming down, where has all the sunshine gone to blues? I got those Kingsway, Queensway, Docksway, Subway, every which way Newport blues. Those Riverfront Arts Centre, Dolman Theatre, Lyceum Theatre, NCLA, Indoor Market blues. Those Tredegar House collapsing Newport Clock, Red Steel Way blues. Those Brins Glass, Maze Glass, Crinder and Gare blues. John Frost, he had the Newport blues. He had the Chartist uprising. Wish I'd never heard of the Westgate. I don't want to go to Tasmania. What sort of a square is this blues? Those ruined castle, civic centre, Celtic manor blues. Please send me on a world cruise. I got those bored with Bettis, tired of Ringland, down with Dufferin. Had my fill of pill, I'd rather be in Toulouse blues. those Maindy, Summit and Allway blues, those George Street Bridge, Old Town Bridge, Railway Bridge, pedestrian footbridge blues. Yes. W.H. Davis, he had the Newport blues. He had those Supertramp Church House pub. What kind of a statue is this? Where's my Moose blues? Those Corporation Road, Chepstow Road, Cullion Road blues. Who would choose to have the Newport blues? Those M4 motorway, Southern Distributor Road, Caldra, High Cross, too many bus lane blues. Those Grove Park, Coronation Park, Tredegar Park, Beechwood Park, Shaftesbury Park. Why did the dog bark in Bellevue Park blues? Those River Ebou, west side and east side of the Usk, only looks nice at high tide blues. The drunks in the pubs and clubs have got the Newport blues. They've got those falling down, can't stand up straight, give me another pint blues. Those Yateses, Weatherspoons, TJ's, Muncher House blues. Those High Street, Mill Street, Alterine and Glaslick blues. Those Baineswell, Easewell, Commercial Street, Commercial Road blues. Never mind those scenic views. I've got those North Dock, South Dock, Alexandra Dock blues. Those Clarence Place, In Your Face, Stowe Hill, Barrack Hill, Christchurch Road blues. Those Landwernless, Wherry, Malpas, Beechwood, Bishpool blues. Those Somerton Park, Newport County, Rodney Parade, Newport RFC Rugby blues. Those Pound Stretcher, Hyper Value, In Shops, Newport Bus Station blues. The Newport blues, every Newportonian's got the Newport blues. Those Royal Albert, Lord Raglan, Conti's Bass House, Robin Hood, all those dead and gone pubs blues. Those litter on the pavements, boarded up shops, decaying buildings, never-ending Newport blues. Those kebab house, pizza restaurant, Indian takeaway, Chinese takeaway, Vaqueras chip shop blues. Those bar, piazza, Scarlett's, Ferris's, Starbucks, Hunky Dory's, coffee house blues. The Newport blues is really bad news. Those New City, third city in Wales, multi-storey car park, it's getting dark too early blues. Those passport office, income tax office, post office, registry office blues. Those reference library, Langdon Library, art gallery, Newport Museum blues. Those St. Mark's, St. Paul's, St. Bride's, St. Julian's blues. Will somebody please give me some clues? I got those 22 carat heavy duty, state of the art, cutting edge, iconic, bionic, supersonic, you better believe it, made in Newport blues. Those Roman invaders, Saxon slaughterer, Norman conqueror, why do the Celts always have to lose blues? I got those standing at the crossroads, hellhound on my trail, bottleneck guitar, deep southeast of Wales, Newport blues. Those recession, depression, credit crunch blues. Those English-speaking, Welsh-speaking, Cymrian, Bith, Nostar, Borodar, Yakita, Casnewydd blues. I got the Casnewydd blues.